Female CEO mocked a black mechanic. "Fix this engine and I'll marry you." He shocked everyone. Does a janitor believe he can make this better? Victoria Sterling pointed to the sparking engine, her voice brimming with disgust. As she covered her nose dramatically, the lights in the boardroom caught her diamond jewelry. "God, you even have a motor oil odor." Before continuing, I want to invite you to like the video and leave a comment from where you are watching this beautiful story. Trash bags firmly gripped in his rough fists, Jamal Washington froze in the doorway. He was looked at like a stray dog by 20 executives. With her red Louboutin shoes clicking on marble flooring, Victoria rose to her feet. She approached Jamal, getting close enough for him to smell her pricey perfume tinged with disdain. "I'll marry you right here if the maintenance boy fixes this $2 million engine that the MIT engineers were unable to fix." A few centimeters away from his face, she snapped her fingers. "If you don't succeed, security will take you out for good." With 50 million in contracts hanging on one malfunctioning machine, the room became silent. Have you ever been written off so thoroughly that someone risked their reputation that you wouldn't succeed? Like a glass monument to invention, IT Vanguard Industries sprung from the concrete jungle of Silicon Valley. America's most promising autonomous vehicle firm was situated in the 40-story skyscraper, where antiseptic labs and boardrooms reeked of ambition and leather, where billion-dollar fantasies were hatched. This empire has been brutally precisely constructed by Victoria Sterling. At 38, she used terror to command respect. The IT industry referred to her as a visionary, and her suits were designed to intimidate. Her blonde hair was always pulled into a flawless bun. Behind closed doors, her staff muttered various words. The company's crown jewel, a cutting-edge AI-guided engine intended to power its fleet of self-driving delivery trucks, was broken and resting on the executive conference table. This engine wasn't your typical one. It was the culmination of 47 patents, 3 years of development, and the technical aspirations of the most brilliant brains in Silicon Valley. Theoretically, the device could power autonomous cars with 93% efficiency, completely changing the distribution sector in the process. This machine had resisted all attempts at repair for 6 weeks. Ivy League engineering teams had failed 3 times. 67 diagnostic tests had produced nothing but rising pressure and frustration. With the same mysterious fault number, harmonic disruption detected, the engine would start, run for precisely 14 minutes and 37 seconds, overheat, and shut down. Jamal Washington was familiar with every square inch of the marble floors at Tech Vanguard. Unnoticed by the executives who passed by him like furniture, he had been pushing his maintenance cart down these corridors for 3 years. Everyone was aware of the truth, even though his official title was technical consultant. He scrubbed floors, emptied garbage cans, and bore the daily humiliation of being Silicon Valley's most intelligent janitor. In his studio apartment, his framed engineering degree from community college served as a somber reminder of dreams postponed due to uncontrollable circumstances and medical expenditures. Jamal had made the decision to make a sacrifice. Although his peers had transferred to 4-year institutions, treatments for his mother's cancer always came first. Each chemotherapy session cost $3,000. 60% was covered by insurance. It was straightforward and heartbreaking. Every day, the engine crisis got worse. Victoria's demands became increasingly irrational, and her morning meetings became noisier, with sharp, irate beats that made interns cringe. She paced the boardroom like a trapped predator, her heels clicking against marble. As her desperation progressed, coffee cups piled up on conference tables like layers of archaeology. At Tuesday's disaster meeting, she yelled at the engineering team, $67 million. We lose the 67 million that could have given us market dominance in 3 key cities if this engine doesn't operational by Friday. Engineers and recent Stanford, Harvard and MIT grads sat still in pricey suits as their laptops displayed the same problem numbers they had been looking at for weeks. They made more than $120,000 a year on average. Together, they owed more than $2 million in student loans. That was all irrelevant anymore. The AI system of the engine was unable to effectively communicate with the mechanical parts. The machine would overheat, smoke, and shut down each time they believed they had figured out the answer. Marcus Brooks, a 2019 MIT graduate and team leader, had dark circles under his eyes that were visible through cosmetics. His team has attempted hardware replacements, software fixes, and whole system reinstallations. After someone mentioned that the workplace energy might be interfering with the machine, they brought in a feng shui consultant and conferred with Stanford AI experts and Detroit automobile engineers. Victoria searched the room like a searchlight, looking for someone to point the finger at. As Jamal replaced the water pitcher in silence, she looked at him and murmured, "Perhaps we have too many people who don't belong here. Dead weight is causing our entire operation to lag." The remark was spot on. A few members of the technical team looked at Jamal, their faces displaying everything from shame to barely disguised acceptance. Berkeley's Sarah Kim shifted uneasily. After 6 weeks of working 12-hour days, she was unable to resolve the issue. However, in their weary brains, the idea that a janitor would be the weak link made twisted logic. Jamal acted as though he had not heard. Here, he had discovered that being invisible meant surviving. His engineering mind, however, was unable to quit examining the issue. He would examine the engine's schematics that were strewn on the table while he scrubbed the boardroom flooring late at night. The engineers appeared to overlook the narrative conveyed by the technical standards. The AI calibration software was created in California using imperial units, whereas the engine was constructed in Germany using metric measurements. Cascade issues could be caused by a simple conversion error. Like steam in a closed kettle, the pressure increased. Victoria purposefully scheduled Jamal's cleaning tasks during crucial investor meetings, according to security footage from the prior week. With a voice that was just loud enough for him to hear, she would point him out to possible companions. Everyone should have opportunity, including our maintenance crew. She sounded more charitable than professional. Chains of emails showed worse. Although his formal title was consultant, he was known internally as the cleaning person. His unavoidable termination as a cost-cutting measure was covered in the messages. Victoria started a particularly nasty conversation in which people wondered if he could even read the corporate directory. Jennifer Walsh, the HR manager, had joined in, commenting on Jamal's limited language with laughing emojis. The hushed exchanges were just as vicious. Workers talked about his existence as a regrettable necessity, a corporate diversity checkbox that management ignored but accepted. According to one marketing director, he's at least quieter than the last man who made an effort to participate in meetings. On Wednesday, the black Mercedes vehicles carrying the German investors pulled up to Tech Vanguard's gate in a funeral procession. These individuals stood for a prospective investment of €100 million, which might propel the business to the top of the world economy. In order to assess Tech Vanguard's engine technology, Klaus Meller, CEO of Autotech Bavaria, had flown from Munich. He was known for being a technical perfectionist. Businesses either made a lasting impression on him or failed miserably. The delegation was accompanied by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a current board advisor and former Tesla engineer. She had a renowned reputation in the field of automotive engineering. She possessed 37 patents, consulted for businesses on 3 continents, and created power systems that transformed electric vehicles. Because of her participation, this meeting was more than just a commercial one. It was a technical assessment that may determine the destiny of Tech Vanguard. Dr. Rodriguez was able to spot engineering errors with surgical accuracy, didn't put up with idiots, and didn't take excuses. Thursday afternoon was the planned time for the demonstration. The whole business held its breath. Press releases touting the partnership's success had already been prepared by marketing. Proposals for European expansion had been prepared by sales teams. Everyone was hoping for a party. So the cafeteria had ordered champagne. In tiny ways, Victoria's desperation was evident. By Wednesday night, her typically flawless makeup seemed a little smeared. Her helpers ran down the corridors with stress reduction pills and countless mugs of coffee. She used the executive restroom as a private screaming chamber to vent her frustrations that she was unable to show in public. The sound of expensive heels kicking metal trash cans and muffled yelling were reported by security personnel. Jamal, however, carried on with his unseen life. He observed engineers working 16-hour stints while guzzling energy drinks and conjecturing about the engine's issues in ever-wildering ways. The building's Wi-Fi network was blamed for electromagnetic interference, hardware incompatibilities, and software problems. Jamal heard something they didn't, but one frantic engineer speculated that the feng shui of the office might be interfering with the electronic harmony of the machine. He would stop by the engine room during his late-night cleaning efforts when the office was quiet. He was reminded of his grandfather's Detroit garage by the machine's noises, faint vibrations, and frequency patterns. He had learned from Samuel Washington that each engine has its unique voice. All you needed was the ability to listen. The voice of this engine sounded strained, as if it were struggling with itself. Chaos arose Thursday morning. Smoke filled the boardroom as the last diagnostic test failed dramatically, setting off the fire suppression system. Engineers stood with their reputations on thin threads, their costly laptops damaged and their bodies soaked. The entire floor exuded a sense of defeat due to the scent of burned gadgets combined with chemical fire suppression. Klaus Müller's face was expressionless as he watched the catastrophe play out with Germanic stoicism. Dr. Rodriguez's pen moved in neat, pointed strokes as she took thorough notes. The other German investors looked at each other as if their private planes were taking off sooner than scheduled. Victoria called an all-hands emergency meeting. The expressions of the 200 employees crammed into the big auditorium showed varying degrees of resignation and panic. Behind stylish spectacles, the German investors sat in the front row, their faces unreadable, unnoticeable as usual. Jamal stood in the rear, close to the emergency exits. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victoria said, her hands shaking but her voice firm, "we are up against our biggest obstacle. The core component of our autonomous vehicle system, our groundbreaking engine, is still not working. Conventional solutions have been explored by our engineering teams." She hesitated, allowing failure to descend like dust on the room. "We will start implementing cost-cutting initiatives right away. Starting with jobs that don't immediately help resolve this situation, non-essential staff will be let go." With the exception of muffled tears from the back rows and the murmur of air conditioning, the room became quiet. Victoria looked from face to face, searching for a victim to offer to the corporate gods. Her gaze remained on Jamal, like a predator. It was then when Jamal erred. He held up his hand. "Ma'am," the microphone's improved acoustics allowed his voice to be heard clearly. "I believe that the calibration of the harmonic frequency, rather than the software integration, may be the issue." As if they were sunflowers following light, 200 heads turned toward him. Abruptly, The German investors leaned forward. "Doctor." Rodriguez's demeanor changed from one of boredom to one of curiosity as she raised an eyebrow. Victoria's expression changed. Astonishment gave way to wrath, and then to a much riskier chance. However, Victoria's ignorance of Jamal would have a profound impact. The true tale was only getting started. Detroit, 1995. Like a wounded giant, the car industry was losing jobs. However, the purposeful hum of Samuel Washington's garage on 8 Mile Road persisted. At 72, his worn hands read engines like holy books, and he moved with the careful ease of a master craftsman. Jamal, 12, watched his granddad perform magic on a broken Mustang while pressing his face to the garage window. 3 other mechanics had declared the engine dead, but Samuel noticed something they had overlooked. With the care of a physician inspecting a patient, his fingers moved over the engine block. Samuel called without looking up. "Come here, boy. It's time you gained some useful knowledge." Everything changed that summer. Jamal spent his days in his grandfather's realm, the Cathedral of Grease and Steel, while other children played computer games. In the 1970s, when such accomplishments required great daring and talent, Samuel had broken down boundaries as one of the first black foremen at Ford Motor Company. Samuel would put Jamal's little hand on a running motor and say, "Listen closely. There's life in this machine. Do you sense that beat? That's 8,000 explosions per minute, 4 cylinders communicating with one another, and everything operating in unison." The old man had a straightforward yet profound philosophy. "Son, your skin color and diploma are irrelevant to an engine. Only those who pay attention to its heartbeat will get a response. The machine will never deceive you if you respect it and learn its language." Jamal learned from Samuel to use sound, vibration, and even scent to assess issues. Engine rhythm irregularities could be a sign of worn bearings. A certain smell may indicate coolant leakage or oil deterioration. Textbooks did not teach these skills. They came from generations of men who realized that machines had souls, and they were inherited wisdom. The teachings were not just about mechanics. For decades, Samuel had persevered in a field that did not accept men with his appearance. He had gained recognition by solving difficulties that even highly qualified engineers couldn't solve. At Ford, he had a legendary reputation. No matter how hopeless it appeared, Samuel Washington could bring any engine back to life. On those long summer afternoons, he informed Jamal, "White folks are going to test you twice as hard. Engines don't lie, boy. But I'm going to presume you're half as intelligent. Your color no longer matters as much when you solve something others couldn't." At 16, Jamal was able to disassemble and reassemble whole engines while wearing a blindfold. He was more adept than most automobile engineers at the complex ballet of timing chains, valves, and pistons. Professors at community colleges were astounded by his natural understanding of mechanical concepts, which usually took years of study to become proficient in. However, life had other ideas. Samuel passed away after a major heart attack while laboring under the hood of a Cadillac during Jamal's senior year of high school. Ford experts, mechanics, and ordinary customers whose vehicles Samuel had saved crowded the burial. They talked about his brilliance, his moral character, and his capacity to find straightforward answers to seemingly intractable situations. The garage was permanently closed. To cover medical expenses, the tools were auctioned. Jamal didn't inherit any money. It was wisdom, intuition, and a philosophy that would keep him going for decades when he was underappreciated. The decision became evident during Jamal's second year at community college when his mother, Denise, received a stage 3 breast cancer diagnosis. Moving to a 4-year institution required living expenditures, student loans, and time away from home. He didn't need a fancy degree. His mother needed him more. While earning his associate's degree in mechanical engineering, he worked 3 jobs: cleaning office buildings in the mornings, working weekends at an auto parts store, and working nights at a gas station. Despite being so exhausted that he slept in library chairs in between classes, he maintained flawless scores. His extraordinary talent was acknowledged by the academics at the community college. Following a particularly outstanding lecture on engine efficiency improvement, Dr. Martinez, who taught at MIT before settling into a more sedate academic life, called Jamal aside. "You've got a gift," she said plainly. "I have observed Harvard grads who have a less intuitive grasp of mechanical systems keep that light shining no matter what." But the situation persisted. Every extra penny was spent on cancer treatments. 60% of the treatment expenditures were covered by insurance, leaving thousands of dollars in monthly charges. Jamal's part-time work turned into a full-time requirement. In a folder named Someday, his transfer applications to 4-year colleges were still pending. He got employment anywhere he could put his skills to use after graduating. Small repair businesses, industrial maintenance, and finally a temporary agency that offered technical consultant opportunities brought me to Tech Vanguard. The income paid for his mother's medical expenditures, but the reality was otherwise. He continued to uphold his grandfather's ideas like a holy flame 3 years later. Despite his janitorial responsibilities, he kept up to date on his knowledge by studying engineering journals and technical manuals every night. He used his free time taking online courses in advanced diagnostics, AI systems integration, and automotive engineering. He studied salvaged engine parts, technical papers, and textbooks like archaeological treasures in his studio apartment. When he was at his lowest, he heard Samuel's voice. "Boy, the engine doesn't give a damn about your situation. All it needs is someone who speaks its language." As he stood in the auditorium of Tech Vanguard, surrounded by 200 doubtful looks and Victoria's sly grin, Jamal sensed his grandfather's warmth like a comforting hand on his shoulder. That Mustang from 1995 had the same busted engine. All it needed was someone who could hear what it really said. The true test was just around the corner. There was such a total silence in the auditorium that the sound of the building's ventilation system seemed like the sound of a rushing wind. Victoria Sterling's manicured fingernails gripped the microphone stand until her knuckles became white as she stood motionless at the podium. This was not what she had anticipated. In front of investors who have the power to make or break her company's destiny, a janitor challenges her. Klaus Müller, seated in the front row, leaned forward. His steel-grey eyes were as intent on Jamal as a bird spotting its prey. "Doctor." Elena Rodriguez placed her coffee cup next to him with purposeful accuracy. Suddenly, her famed engineering instincts came into play. Rapid, sharp words sliced through the tension like broken glass as the other German investors muttered. Victoria's thoughts whirled with potential. She might ignore Jamal's remark, keep her power, and go ahead and announce the termination. But she was stopped by something in Klaus Müller's face. The German businessman was researching Jamal with the same kind of attention he would give to a good prototype. This was no moment for hasty dismissals. A better thought developed, and Victoria's lips formed a vicious smile. She could publicly ruin him, so why just fire him? While entertaining her German guests with American corporate theater, set an example that would scare every employee into complete compliance. Well, she began, her voice booming over the sound system in the auditorium. "Regarding advanced engineering, our maintenance consultant offers a viewpoint." Several staff visibly cringed when they heard the venomous word maintenance. Her red Louboutin heels clicked against the polished wood of the stage as she moved away from the podium. "Is it not Jamal Washington?" The guy who cleans our floors and emptying our garbage cans believes he knows the answer to a problem that 67 Harvard and MIT graduates couldn't. The audience erupted in nervous laughter. Workers shuffled uneasily in their chairs, torn between fascination and dread. Everyone realized that this was a corporate blood sport. Dr. Rodriguez opened a pricey fountain pen and took out her leather notebook. She had worked as an engineer for 40 years and had seen innumerable instances where innovative ideas came from unlikely places. She had learned from her Stanford mentor to never discount ideas because of where they came from. Genius was a multifaceted person. "Here's your moment to prove it," Victoria added, her voice rising theatrically. "You're so confident. Our greatest engineers were unable to fix our $2 million engine for 6 weeks. Do it in front of our board, investors, and the entire business." She pointed to the German delegation as if she were awarding prizes on a game show. Potential finance of €100 million is represented by these gentlemen. They witnessed American ingenuity in action. Let's put on a spectacle they won't soon forget. His assistant was already typing notes on a tablet, but Klaus Müller's face was still inscrutable. Any subsequent events would be recorded, examined, and reported back to Munich. It seems that American corporate culture was more amusing than expected. The microphone caught Victoria's voice as it faded to a whisper, which was then amplified across the theater. "Jamal, these are the stakes. What our MIT-trained experts were unable to diagnose and correct in 6 weeks, you have precisely 2 hours to do. I'll personally elevate you to senior engineering consultant with a salary commensurate with your inflated ego if you achieve, which we both know you won't." Shocked whispers filled the auditorium. Positions as senior engineering consultants came with stock options and 6-figure salaries. For someone whose present work description included emptying wastebaskets, it was a ridiculous offer. Victoria went on, her smile so piercing that it could draw blood. "But when you fail, you're not just fired, you're banned from this building forever. You will be escorted out by security. And I will personally make sure that every Silicon Valley tech company is aware of your amazing failure." With a snap of her fingers, 2 security guards appeared like summoned monsters at the side doors of the auditorium. They were not inconspicuous. The purpose of this intimidation drama was to scare away anyone else who might think about questioning authority. Dr. Rodriguez abruptly rose to her feet, drawing attention to herself from everyone in the room. Elena Rodriguez was a 62-year-old woman who was respected beyond corporate ranks. Electric vehicle powertrains were changed by her work at Tesla. All of the big automakers were clients of her consultancy firm. Engineers listened when she spoke. With the authority of someone who had never been questioned about engineering concerns, she declared, "I'll serve as technical witness. For this exam to be accurate and fair, impartial oversight is necessary." For a moment, Victoria's smile wavered. This was not what she had expected. Because of Dr. Rodriguez's participation, the challenge gained legitimacy and was elevated from business embarrassment to an official technical assessment. Klaus Müller gave a nod of approval. "Fantastic. We are totally focused on you, Herr Washington." With the weight of industrial authority that had established the reputation of German engineering, his English was exact. "We are interested in American approaches to problem-solving." Conversations broke out in whispers across the auditorium. Workers took out their iPhones and began writing texts and posts on social media about the drama that was developing. For months, people in Silicon Valley bars would talk about this type of corporate drama. It was too late for Victoria to turn back when she realized she had lost control of the story. "All right," she responded in a voice that was taut with barely contained rage. "I'm going to add one more requirement, but Dr. Rodriguez can see your unavoidable failure. She pointed to the cameras Tech Vanguard uses for company announcements and staff training. This entire challenge is being streamed live on our corporate social media pages. Show the world what occurs when people who aren't qualified try to do jobs that are above their ability. The recommendations for the live stream generated activity right away. Professional lighting and camera angles were hurriedly set up by marketing assistants. Managers of social media started creating hashtags: Innovation at Work, the Tech Vanguard Challenge, and the hashtag Engineering Test. In a matter of minutes, thousands of followers would be able to watch live footage on the company's Instagram and LinkedIn sites. Throughout this corporate circus, Jamal remained still, his maintenance cart by his side like a loyal friend. The earthquake of attention focused on his every breath did not shake his calloused palms. Instead of providing him with specialized instruction, Samuel Washington had prepared him for this moment by teaching him throughout his life that engines responded to competence regardless of credentials. Dr. Rodriguez strode down the aisle of the auditorium, her shoes tapping the polished concrete with assurance. She paused just in front of Jamal and examined his face intently, as if she had spent decades assessing technical skill. She spoke softly only for him to hear, "Young man, are you sure you want to move forward? Your entire future is on the line. This isn't just about fixing an engine." Jamal steadily looked into her eyes. "I've spent my entire life listening to engines, Mom. This one has been attempting to inform us of the issue. Simply put, we haven't been hearing it right." Slowly, Dr. Rodriguez nodded. She saw in his eyes the intelligence, intuition, and quiet confidence that distinguished genuine genius from education, and it reminded her of the young engineers she had coached at Tesla. "Very well," she remarked, loud enough to record the microphones. "Let's check your capabilities." The challenge, 2 hours to demonstrate or disprove a lifetime of concealed expertise, was formally accepted, like a mechanical judge. The engine waited in the boardroom, its quiet testimony poised to decide the fate of one man. With smartphones documenting every moment of this extraordinary corporate drama, the throng started to move toward the executive floor. The executive boardroom became a judgmental amphitheater. 200 workers were jammed up against the glass walls, their faces forming a mosaic of uncertainty and expectation. Klaus Müller checked his platinum watch with Germanic accuracy as the German investors sat on executive leather chairs like a tribunal. With the poise of someone who has seen innumerable instances of engineering truth, Dr. Rodriguez took her place next to the engine. Like a technological altar, the broken engine took center stage at the conference table. The LED lighting was reflected off the steel and chrome parts, producing shadows that appeared to pulse with mechanical potential. Oscilloscopes tracking electromagnetic signatures, temperature sensors tracking thermal patterns that had baffled engineers for 6 weeks, and computers flashing an unending number of fault codes were all surrounded by diagnostic equipment. Victoria Sterling's figure was framed by the skyline of Silicon Valley as she stood close to the floor-to-ceiling windows. As word traveled through IT industry networks, her smartphone live streamed the event to IT Vanguard's social media pages, quickly increasing the number of viewers. Predictions abound in the comments area, with the majority predicting spectacular failure. Slowly approaching the engine, Jamal stood out from the nice suits around him in his maintenance attire. With the devotion of a musician tuning a priceless instrument, he closed his eyes and pressed both hands firmly against the engine block, drowning out the murmuring of the throng. Hours passed in the first 30 seconds. Workers exchanged doubtful looks. A few members of the engineering team grinned and began writing letters of resignation in case the company failed due to this PR catastrophe. But when Jamal's countenance shifted from focus to recognition, Dr. Rodriguez watched with increasing interest. Jamal abruptly stated, "It's fighting itself." his voice plainly audible over the boardroom's acoustics. Although the AI system is flawless, it is attempting to make up for mechanical issues that shouldn't be there. He opened his eyes and met Klaus Muller's gaze. This engine was made in Munich, sir, according to metric specs, right? Here in California, however, the AI calibration was programmed. Klaus Muller's brows lifted a trifle. That's right. We are accurate to within 1/100th of a millimeter. Imperial measures are commonly used in American programming. For an instant, Victoria's self-assured face wavered. Technical conversation that demonstrated real understanding of the production process surprised her. With his hands still on the engine, Jamal gave a nod. The first issue is that the mechanical parts that the AI is attempting to regulate are 0.03 inches away from what it anticipates. When every instrument is tuned to a little different key, it's like attempting to lead an orchestra. The sound diagnosis was the first finding. Could I turn on the engine? Doctor. Rodriguez nodded in increasing interest as Jamal questioned. The boardroom was filled with the deep rumble of controlled explosions as the machine came to life. However, Jamal heard a conversation while others heard the typical sounds of an engine. He remembered the sound of his grandfather's voice. Engines communicate with people who understand their language. He raised his voice above the mechanical symphony and yelled, "Listen! There is a harmonic frequency mismatch at 2,800 RPM. The AI sensors are picking up vibrations that don't fit the pre-programmed specifications, even when the pistons are striking their ideal beat." He gestured to the diagnostic screen that showed streams of unintelligible data. When the issue is mechanical harmony, your engineers have been chasing software ghosts. When the harmonic mismatch hits critical resonance, the engine overheats after running for precisely 14 minutes and 37 seconds. With her engineering instincts fully activated, Dr. Rodriguez took a step forward, described the theory of harmonics. Every engine has a natural frequency, or the range of RPMs at which every part operates flawlessly. This engine was built to run as efficiently as possible at 3,400 RPM. However, the AI system is attempting to maintain a different harmonic frequency than what the mechanical components can provide because it was calibrated to expect imperial readings. He pointed to the oscilloscope that showed the wave patterns. Do you see the erratic surges that occur every 14 minutes? As the AI coerces it into an artificial pattern, the engine is attempting to discover its own rhythm. The MIT-trained team leader, Marcus Brooks, pushed through the throng. That isn't feasible. During development, we conducted a lot of testing on harmonic frequencies. Jamal gave him a respectfully disapproving glance. Even though you tested the frequencies that the AI was trained to anticipate, the mechanical parts themselves are playing a slightly different tune. Klaus Müller and his colleagues looked at each other. This was no idle chatter from an unskilled maintenance man. Fundamental design integration difficulties were resolved by this advanced acoustic engineering analysis. The second finding is the unveiling of measurement. Jamal proceeded to the technical documents for the engine, laying out schematics on the gleaming conference table. With the accuracy of someone who had studied these records during innumerable late-night cleaning sessions, his finger traced specifications. He used German engineering specifications and stated that the crankshaft was machined to 87.63 millimeters in diameter in Munich. However, the AI calibration makes the assumption that the object is 3.450 inches or 87.63 millimeters, physically distinct but mathematically similar. Doctor. Rodriguez followed his calculations with her fountain pen as she leaned over the plans. Proceed. In Germany, manufacturing tolerance is 0.001 millimeters plus or minus. The standard American tolerance is plus or minus 0.005 inches gyro, or about 0.127 millimeters. The tolerances at which the German components are built are significantly tighter than what the AI system anticipates. With a lack of skill, he took a digital caliper out of the diagnostic tools and measured different engine parts. German accuracy standards are followed in the manufacturing of the timing chain, connecting rods and pistons. However, American tolerance ranges are assumed by the AI. This results in a cascading synchronization error, Jamal added, his assurance increasing as the technical reasoning became clear. The AI continuously makes little adjustments in an attempt to make up for errors that don't really exist. A conductor attempting to reprimand musicians who are already performing flawlessly is analogous to this. Discussions on engineering erupted in Victoria's live-stream comments. The stream was being shared by viewers on business networks. A few engineers from Ford and Tesla also joined the discussion with grudging respect and technical queries. The measurements were examined by Marcus Brooks. His face changed from one of doubt to one of wonder. He murmured that compounding timing faults are caused by the tolerance differential. Jamal's intuitive analysis finally connected with his MIT background. Klaus Müller got up and took his own measurements. Any promises regarding production precision had to be verified because of German engineering pride. He deliberated for a few minutes before gently nodding. Mathematically, the analysis is accurate. The elegant answer is the third discovery, Dr. Rodriguez inquired, her notebook full of technical observations. So, how do we fix it? Jamal went to a storage cabinet with spare parts, instead of suggesting costly hardware replacements or software changes. He chose what looked to be a straightforward metal disc with precisely measured perforations that was about the size of a hockey puck. He held the part up for everyone to see and explained that it was a harmonic dampener. We add this resonance buffer to bridge the frequency gap, rather than rewriting the AI to match German tolerances or remanufacturing components to American specs. Victoria's self-assured face broke entirely. Are you saying that a $50 component can fix an issue that has cost us millions in consultation costs and 6 weeks? The simplest engineering solutions can sometimes be the most elegant, Jamal said. Both the engine and the AI are flawless. To properly converse, they simply require a translator. With motions that betrayed years of mechanical expertise, he started fitting the dampener. His hands worked with the assured accuracy of someone who had rebuilt many engines in late-night apartment complex repair sessions, community college workshops, and Detroit garages. Dr. Rodriguez observed each motion with expert interest. Where did you get your engineering degree in harmonic resonance? I learned from my grandfather that engines have souls, Jamal added, securing the last link. Software updates can't save a soul. After listening to what it has to say, you must assist it in discovering its own rhythm. It took 12 minutes to install. No changes to the original design were necessary because the dampener fitted flawlessly into the mounting locations that were already there. It was the epitome of engineering elegance, using straightforward, intuitive methods to solve difficult challenges. Jamal stepped back from the engine and said that it was ready for testing. There was silence in the boardroom. Klaus Müller took another look at his watch. It had been 1 hour and 47 minutes. Now, if Jamal's analysis is accurate, the engine ought to run perfectly. His reputation and career would be ruined in the most visible way if he was mistaken. With her seasoned eyes poised to decipher each measurement and data stream, Dr. Rodriguez took her place at the diagnostic apparatus. With a sense of communal expectation, the German investors leaned forward. In order to keep the thousands of online viewers interested in this improbable engineering drama, Victoria's smartphone recorded every minute. Dr. Rodriguez ordered the engine started. The time has come for the truth. 67 prior attempts had been unsuccessful. Could a community college-educated maintenance worker succeed where MIT graduates had failed? Anyone who would actually learn to listen to the engine's voice would be able to hear its secrets as it held its mechanical breath. For the first time in 6 weeks, the sound of precisely synced equipment rediscovering its natural beat filled the air as the ignition key turned. With a metallic click that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet boardroom, the ignition key turned. The engine roared to life, and 200 people held their breath as the first rumble filled the room with mechanical thunder that seemed to tremble the steel foundations of the structure. However, something had changed. It was instantly and clearly different. The engine no longer knocked harshly and irregularly as it had during the previous 6 weeks. The sound of 8 cylinders firing in perfect unison replaced it with a silky purr, each combustion chamber adding to the harmony that caused Dr. Rodriguez's eyes to open with recognition. This was the sound of automotive excellence. With his hand lightly pressing on the vibrating surface, Jamal stepped next to the engine. He now sensed the serene assurance of machinery working in unison, while previously he had felt the terrible effort of parts battling against one another. As his grandfather's wisdom had foreseen, the harmonic dampener had performed flawlessly. For the first time in 42 days, green indicators exploded on the diagnostic panels. Temperature measurements leveled off within ideal values. All cylinders had excellent compression, according to pressure sensors. The engineering team gasped in collective awe as the AI system's error warnings disappeared and were replaced by constant streams of operational data. Klaus Müller said, "Ich Gott," his German poise faltering as he gazed at readings his own Munich engineers had hoped to attain, 3 percentage points above the predicted maximum performance. The engine was running at 97.3% efficiency. Like a conductor reading sheet music, Dr. Rodriguez navigated between diagnostic stations, her trained eyes taking in information that conveyed an amazing tale. Engine temperature remains at 187 degrees Fahrenheit, while oil pressure remains constant at ideal levels. 0% deviation, harmonic frequency locked at 3,400 RPM. There was something almost reverent about the way she gazed up at Jamal. "I have 40 years of experience in automotive engineering, and I have never seen such clean diagnostic data. Your grandfather would be pleased." The true test was when Victoria sought the entire operational challenge. Her face whitened with increasing awareness. "Okay, so it's operating. But can it truly power our self-driving car systems in practical situations?" Employees could view Tech Vanguard's prototype delivery vehicle parked in the courtyard below via the floor-to-ceiling windows of the boardroom. Without a working power supply, the vehicle's sophisticated navigation systems had been ineffective while it sat still for weeks. Jamal gave the truck a quiet, assured nod. "We'll see what she can accomplish." With the fluidity of water finding its level, the engine's power moved through computerized networks, electrical generators, and transmission systems. For the first time in 6 weeks, the autonomous car's brain came online, and the dashboard lights turned on one after the other. GPS units came online. Radar sensors started to scan. Camera arrays were mechanically focused. As the truck's headlights blazed, its electric systems relying on the precisely timed engine to power them, the crowd crowded against the windows. The truck moved slowly, almost ceremoniously. It maneuvered past landscaping barriers, backed out of its parking spot with computer-controlled accuracy, and performed a faultless parallel parking maneuver that caused the onlookers to spontaneously applaud. The engine ran flawlessly for 37 minutes. Without any problems, the dreaded 14-minute shutdown point was reached. 20 minutes after that, the systems kept working with the accuracy of German engineering. fueled by American ingenuity and directed by the mechanical know-how of Detroit. On her tablet, Klaus Müller's assistant was typing frantically as she recorded performance indicators that surpassed all of the requirements in their initial investment proposal. With emotions that ranged from skepticism to wonder to hardly restrained excitement about collaboration possibilities, the other German investors crowded in a fast-paced conversation. More than 50,000 people watched Victoria's live stream. It is too fast to read individual messages in the comments area. Professionals in the tech sector, engineers in the car business, and casual internet users were all taking in something that had never been seen before. A maintenance worker resolving issues that have baffled groups of qualified specialists. At last, Dr. Rodriguez ordered it to shut down. "We've had enough." With the contented sigh of machinery that had at last found its purpose, the engine fell into silence. After a few seconds, the green glow on the diagnostic panels faded to standby mode. With electronic satisfaction, the self-driving truck parked again and shut down its systems. For extended periods, the boardroom was hushed as everyone came to terms with the enormity of what had just happened. Someone whose formal job description involved emptying wastebaskets had solved 6 weeks of failure in less than 2 hours. Dr. Rodriguez approached Jamal and held out her hand in polite deference. It was a remarkable example of engineering insight. You heard mechanical poetry where others saw software issues. Your solution was creative, economical, and elegant. Next to arrive was Klaus Müller, who shook hands firmly and with German approbation. "Herr Washington, our whole group was pleased by your diagnostic approach. This type of creative thinking is what creates industrial alliances." With her smartphone still filming a live feed that had turned into her own professional obituary, Victoria remained motionless next to the windows. Jamal's unavoidable failure was no longer the topic of conversation. They were doubting her leadership skills and rejoicing in his victory. The truth moment was over. What followed would decide whether corporate America could achieve justice and whether brilliance could overcome discrimination when the stakes were hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars. But first, the world had to witness what transpired when the undervalued were given the opportunity to validate their long-held beliefs. With the authoritative tone of someone who had never been asked about engineering choices, Dr. Rodriguez's voice broke the stillness of the boardroom. "This example has led me to immediately recommend something to the board." With 40 years of automotive engineering experience behind her, she turned to Klaus Müller and the German investors. "I've seen more creative problem solutions and outstanding diagnostic skills from Jamal Washington than from conventional engineering teams." He made a mathematically sound analysis. His execution was perfect, and his answer was lovely. Klaus Müller gave a precise Germanic nod. "Our delegation fully agrees. Our whole technical evaluation team was impressed with Herr Washington's approach." He stopped and looked at his assistant's tablet for notes. "In particular, if Mr. Washington continues to oversee our European engine development program, we are willing to boost our investment commitment by 20%. Whispers broke out in the boardroom. A 20% increase equated to an extra €20 million in funding, which could turn Tech Vanguard from a promising startup into a major participant in the worldwide automobile industry. In addition, Dr. Rodriguez went on, her fountain pen resting atop official records. "I'm offering an instant promotion to Senior Engine Diagnostics Engineer, with immediate effect, eschewing the standard promotion procedures. A person with proven experience in advanced harmonic engineering will have their pay adjusted to reflect market worth." The comments on Victoria's live feed were a riot of joy. Professional networks were distributing the live, and a number of rival tech businesses were already contacting viewers on social media with job offers. As automobile engineers across the world talked about the technical genius they had just seen, the hashtag #JamalWashington started to gain popularity. Marcus Brooks, a member of the MIT-trained engineering team, moved forward with a respectful yet modest demeanor. "We really regret that our entire team missed your suggestions. We would be delighted to learn from your diagnostic approaches and ask for cooperation on further projects." The change was finished. Jamal went from being an unnoticed maintenance worker to a highly esteemed senior engineer, from an unappreciated janitor to a highly sought-after technical leader. All in less than 2 hours. The future of the tech vanguard was more promising than anyone had anticipated. The engine dilemma was resolved, and the German collaboration was established. The most fulfilling part, however, was still to come. Thousands of spectators were about to see what happens in corporate America when hubris and accountability collided as Victoria Sterling remained motionless by the windows, her smartphone recording her own career collapse. The mood of the boardroom changed, like a storm front passing across Silicon Valley. Victoria was now facing her professional consequences for what had started out as her public humiliation theater. The German investors looked at each other thoughtfully, their faces displaying calculations that went much beyond technical evaluations. The aide to Klaus Müller muttered urgent updates regarding the response on social media. Over 100,000 people watched the live feed, and executives in the tech sector shared the video on Twitter and LinkedIn. Celebrations of Jamal's victory and scathing critiques of Victoria's management approach were among the comments. Alongside #EngineeringJustice, #TechVanguardDrama was popular. With purposeful finality, Dr. Rodriguez closed her leather notepad, her fountain pen clicking as she made judgments. A thorough examination of the management procedures that resulted in this circumstance will be necessary for the board. In particular, how costly consulting teams failed to meet fundamental operational goals while skilled workers were routinely underutilized. Victoria's self-assured business facade had crumbled beneath the weight of highly visible repercussions, and her face had lost its color. She had planned this challenge with the expectation of an easy win, never realizing that her victim would have the very knowledge her business sorely needed. With overtones that made venture capitalists uneasy, Klaus Müller revealed that the German delegation has worries. "Trust in leadership decision-making is essential to our collaboration. The occurrences of today point to systematic evaluation flaws that might affect the success of our joint venture." After being mute throughout the technical demonstration, board member Patricia Brooks now spoke with the authority of someone who had substantial stock options. "Our governance committee will need to look into this matter. We must comprehend how a senior engineering consultant whose knowledge could have averted a 6-week operational failure was assigned to maintenance tasks. The inquiry would not be drawn out." Victoria's email history revealed egregious instances of discrimination. Despite his official designation as a consultant, Jamal is referred to in messages as the cleaning person. His janitorial tasks are purposefully scheduled to coincide with crucial investment meetings. Conversations on his unavoidable dismissal as a cost-cutting theatre employee were documented. Jennifer Walsh, the Director of Human Resources, was called to emergency meetings regarding policies pertaining to hostile workplace environments after she had taken part in the offensive email threads with laughing emojis. Corporate lawyers were already talking about compensation strategies when the viral video turned into legal evidence. The repercussions were surgically clear 2 weeks later. Victoria's position as CEO was downgraded to that of strategic advisor. Her decision-making power vanished, and her pay dropped by 40%. She kept her job. Her corporate influence had been totally neutered, but the board had little interest in wrongful termination cases. It seemed especially poetic to mandate diversity and inclusion training. After ignoring Jamal's potential for 3 years, Victoria recently attended training on unconscious bias and inclusive leadership. Dr. Rodriguez, who trained her, approached teaching with the same meticulous attention to detail that she used to solve engineering difficulties. Jamal's metamorphosis, meanwhile, went beyond personal achievement. Along with a 150% pay raise, stock options, and leadership of a task force on inclusive innovation approaches, he was promoted to Senior Engineering Diagnostics. Regardless of the source or present position, the organization's new regulations mandate that all employee recommendations be formally reviewed. The favorable press caused Tech Vanguard's stock price to increase by 15%. The company's dedication to seeing talent wherever it appears was demonstrated by the viral video, which turned into an unanticipated marketing tool. The number of applications for recruitment rose by 40%, and many applicants made special reference to the motivational tale of meritocracy's success. 3 months later, Victoria approached Jamal in private in the staff cafeteria, which was the most fulfilling moment. Her expensive outfit had been swapped out for more understated business wear. Hard lessons about humility and respect reduced her haughty manner. She responded softly, "And I owe you an apology," with sincere regret in her voice. "Additionally, I would appreciate advice on how to develop more inclusive leadership techniques." Jamal treated her the way his grandpa had treated clients who had first questioned his mechanical prowess. "Victoria, everyone deserves an opportunity to develop. The point is, are you prepared to listen as intently as you would if you were listening to a broken machine, proportionate, instructive, and ultimately, redemptive corporate justice had been provided?" After 6 months, Jamal Washington saw German experts set up equipment for the European autonomous vehicle production line in Tech Vanguard's enlarged engineering facility. Delivery trucks in Munich, Frankfurt, and Berlin were now propelled by his innovations, their engines humming with the harmonic perfection he had found during a company crisis. Still hanging in his apartment was the framed diploma from community college. But now it was on the same wall as industry awards, his patents, and a picture of him shaking hands with Klaus Müller at the Munich Auto Show. $1 million engineering decisions that crossed continents were the result of his grandfather's garage expertise. The most potent knowledge can occasionally be found in the most surprising places. Who has the commitment to fully comprehend the issue is more important than who has the degrees. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if this article motivated you to see past presumptions and uncover untapped talent. Have you ever seen someone's potential totally disregarded? Leave a comment below with your tale. Your story might become our next widely shared tale of recognition and justice. At minute 4:32, viewers who are keen-eyed will discover a detail that exposes Victoria's actual nature. Rewatch and let us know what you saw.